Hello, hello, Regis Kilbin is the name, and Here's the Storm is the game. And today I'm here to talk about a brand new hero named Lunara. She just hit the game today, and I'd like to take my first look at her. That includes running through all her abilities, her trait, and see if we can figure out some talents and maybe even identify a talent build and a general kind of playstyle or strategy for being successful with Lunara in Hero League play. So I have yet to experience this character, so you're going to be seeing her right along with me for the first time. Hopefully we can learn some things together and be decent Lunara players before all is said and done. Okay, so first off, you'll notice that Lunara's movement pattern is very unusual. It's one of the things that was advertised about this hero. She moves at 20% faster than normal speed, and you cannot mount with her. But not only that, her movement is patterned. It's not smooth, you'll notice. She takes little hops. So she kind of stops and then goes and then stops and then goes, which it seems like is going to make her a little bit more difficult to hit in some ways, because she won't be moving in a smooth pattern. So skill shots might just fly right in front of her when she stops if somebody doesn't adjust to her movement pattern. But similarly, you might kind of be able to predict where she's going to land and hit shots even better. But it looks like you can pretty successfully, yeah, you can. You can cancel her movement, half jump, and change her direction. You'll see me doing that there. You have to kind of wait till the peak of the jump, or it's a little awkward.
I will renew these lands.
But it looks like depending on where you cancel the movement or adjust the movement, yeah, you can even issue a stop with the S key and she'll just fall at whatever point she's at in her jump. She won't conclude it. So you can probably do some crazy stuff, making your movements unpredictable and bouncy and janky depending on when you click and where you click. So that's going to take a little bit of practice and adjustment to get used to it, but for the most part, I think it's going to offer a pretty interesting mechanic. It's also going to take a little work to get stutter stepping with it right, because the movement pattern is so long that it's pretty easy to cancel things inadvertently if you're not careful.
Well,
anyway, so that's one thing you're going to have to learn and get adjusted to is her movement pattern. But the speed bonus is nice. It's not as fast as, say, Falstad, and it's certainly at half the speed of a mount, which is 40%. But it's still significant enough that kiting and poking from far away might be a legitimate part of her kit and make her pretty deadly as a poke sustain type hero. So, moving on to her trait, Nature's Toxin. This, let's see, your basic attacks and damaging abilities poison their target, dealing 70 damage per second for 3 seconds. So at level 20, that's 210 damage over 3 seconds. That's not too bad. That's 10% of her very low health pool, almost. Every additional application increases the duration by 3 seconds, up to a maximum of 9 seconds. So it looks like you could do 630 total damage over 9 seconds. 9 seconds is a pretty long time in Heroes of the Storm, but 630 damage is also a lot. You'll see these numbers keep going. It should go for 9 seconds. So if you apply that to 3 or 4 people with her attack speed as it is, it's not too long. You could hit 3 people pretty quickly and give them all full stacks. You're talking about 1,800 damage over probably 12 seconds or so, which is quite a bit on top of the auto attack damage it's also hitting. So if you spread that out and maximize the stacks, man, you could weaken an entire team pretty quickly, and I'm sure we're going to have some talents as well that alter how that works and probably make it much better. Moving on to her Q, Noxious Blossom. It's an 8-second cooldown. It's 60 mana. So moderately expensive, but not anything crazy. After a half a second, cause an area to explode with pollen, dealing 351 damage. So that's not a particularly large circle. A little flower pops out and it explodes. 351 damage. It's not bad. It's not huge, but 8-second cooldown's pretty low. So that will add up relatively quickly. It's not going to be a lot of burst damage compared to somebody like a Jaina, but I'm a little bit concerned about the size of the Blossom. It looks like you're not going to be able to hit all 4 members of a bruiser camp. They're mad at me from the... Yeah, it looks like you can only hit 2, not even 3 at any given time. Maybe we can get... Yeah, we can get 3. But it's not even big enough to hit all 4, so that'll give you an indication of its size. But again, short cooldown is nice. Moving on to the W, Crippling Spores, 40 mana, so pretty cheap. 10-second cooldown, pretty short cooldown. Enemies currently afflicted by Nature's Toxin, that's our trait, have its duration increased by 3 seconds and are slowed by 40%, decaying over 3 seconds. So 40% slow is pretty significant. And it's also increasing the duration from 9 seconds to a potential of 12. Or even if you just have 1 stack, it'll go up to 6, right? So I think the idea here is you hit an entire enemy team or maybe an entire bruiser camp with an auto attack, right? They're all toxins, yeah, and then you saw the effect go off on all 4 of them, and it increased the duration. There's quite a bit still ticking away on them. And also slows their movement speed. So you can hit 3 or 4 people with that and pop it. It's going to be worth 210 damage per person it hits, and also a pretty significant 40% slow for 3 seconds. So, decaying over 3 seconds, but still, it's going to be meaningful.
Let's go.
That means if you hit that on 3 people, it's worth about 630 damage again. If you hit it on 5, you know, it's going to be worth over 1,000 total. So that could really add up. And the idea is to apply the toxin to multiple people before you trigger your W a single time.
Where's the excitement?
So you want to get it on 3 or 4 while those are going. Trigger your W. But see, we took a little too long, so I think we missed it on the target dummy. But if you time it well, you build up multiple stacks to give yourself a little leeway. You could really add up some crazy damage there. Finally, her E is Wisp, 50 mana. That's kind of pricey for what this does, I feel like, maybe. It has a 45-second cooldown, which is very long. Spawn a Wisp to scout an area, can be redirected once active, and it lasts 45 seconds. Now, I believe this is attackable too. Yeah, it can be killed. So it's a little susceptible. We have cooldowns toggled off, so we'll get to do this a lot. And then you can redirect it, it looks like. Do you have to be within range when you redirect it? No, and the redirection has, it looks like a 5-second cooldown, yeah. So it looks like you can be anywhere on the map. That's pretty good that you can essentially scout way far ahead and queue up some movements while you're doing other stuff and scout around. We're tapping and okay, so that's kind of good. It's scouting drone but movable. It's a lot of extra vision for your team. I could see that very potent in professional play. And unlike Zagara's vision, which kind of takes some commitment and is limited in its range and scope. Well, I shouldn't say scope, but flexibility or versatility. This one can be moved around, so you can follow people, for instance. You can scout something you've never been to, unlike Zagara. So that might be pretty good. You can tell that so far Lunara does not feel like a burst assassin at all. She almost feels like a utility assassin. I could even see her classified as a specialist in a way. But just because her damage is a little slower, takes a little more build up, and she has a utility as a basic ability. So there's no real escape yet, and no burst damage spell either. So okay, that's it for her basic kit. Let's go ahead and start running through talents. Level 1, first up, Blossom Swell. Increase Noxious Blossom, that's our Q. Radius by 20%. So that sure didn't feel much bigger.
growing strong.
Let's go check it with our bruiser camp. So remember again, before we were able to hit 3 people with this, but not quite 4. Now what happens when we Blossom Swell? Yeah, we can hit 4, but still, it's not significantly larger, is it? It doesn't feel very impactful.
Let's go.
The odds of you clipping even 1 extra person in a chaotic team fight, I feel like are pretty small with that. I don't think that's that good. Let's see what else we've got.
Choose a talent.
Photosynthesis, Crippling Spores, that's our W. Returns 8 mana per enemy hit, up to 40 mana. So if you hit 5 things, which is possible, right, with minion waves or and multiple heroes, you can restore the full mana cost. I don't think that's that crazy. We don't have enough abilities that we're going to be burning through mana, right? Your Wisp can only happen every 45 seconds, so that's not using a lot of mana. And then you only have 2 other abilities, so I don't feel like mana is going to be a priority for Lunara, so I don't see the value in Photosynthesis yet. It's got a cool name, though. Natural Perspective. Nature's Toxin reveals enemies for its duration. Okay. So I guess they just constantly show up on the mini-map. Even if they run away or maybe even hearth back to the base. That could have some value. She's already got vision built into her kit, so awareness seems to be a part of her value. So that has some synergy with Wisp. And also, this Nature's Toxin's pretty good against stealth heroes. If they're taking damage, they'll be unable to re-enter stealth. And I guess this kind of adds to that. They won't be able to tuck away and hide. Somebody like a Zeratul blinking away, you'll know exactly where he's at if you do take Natural Perspective. But finally, Cruel Spores. When Crippling Spores hits only minions or mercenaries, its cooldown is reduced by 80%, and 20 mana is restored. So this is wave clear. She has her Q to wave clear, but I mean that's only going to hit a couple minions at a time, right? It's not going to do much. So they're trying to give you an alternative. If you auto-attack multiple minions, you can use W. I don't know why I clicked that. You can use W, and it will reduce the cooldown. Let's just go ahead and see that in action. Yeah, I keep canceling her auto-attack pretty easily. So, we have cooldowns off, don't we? We're gonna have to wait for another wave so I don't mess it up so badly.
Fine then.
Okay, we have it on 4 people. Oh yeah, we had a 2-second cooldown. So yeah, it did its job. Oh, you only have to hit 1 minion or mercenary. It's just conditional. If it hits only minions, it works. So you can't have a hero. I don't think that's that good.
I hear the call of Kalimdor.
It's fine if you're stuck clearing waves, but she's an assassin, and I feel like she's going to have to focus on doing sustained damage to heroes to be valuable, so doesn't feel that great. Natural Perspective doesn't feel that great because it's just lower impact during fights. Photosynthesis feels useless, and Blossom Swell was bad, but I think it's the best. It just gives you a little bit more punch, a little bit more burst, so as bad as it is, to my mind, it still might be the best option. So level 4, it looks like these are all Wisp talents. So they are really driving you down a path towards utility as opposed to damage. Let's see, Nimble Whist increases the Wisp movement speed by 100% and the vision radius by 50%. So what does it look like now? So the radius is probably a little smaller than a standard hero. And it moves slow, I guess. I don't know. Not fast. Yeah, not particularly fast. So let's try Nimble Wisp and see what we get. Okay, it's definitely moving faster. I don't know that the Wisp moving faster is ever going to matter very much. Maybe if you're trying to get it away from an attacker, but I don't know why you'd be worried so much about your Wisp. But what about the vision radius? How much more significant is that? It's bigger. It's now the exact same size as the hero, it looks like. If you look at Lunara's circle versus the Wisp circle, they're very close. It might be just a shade smaller. So that's good. As far as Wisp is concerned, the size of the vision certainly seems
Choose a talent.
very relevant. So Time Lost Wisp. Wisps cost no mana, and its cooldown recharges 100% faster while no Wisp is active. Okay, the mana, that's fine, but again, I don't think she's going to be mana problems. She's not going to have mana problems, so I wouldn't worry about that. But it recharges 100% faster while no... So I guess if you send your Wisp out and it gets killed, you get to send another one out pretty quickly, which I guess that's fine, but maybe not that valuable. I think I'd rather have the extra vision. Skybound Wisp. Wisp can see over obstacles and reveals the area for 4 seconds after dying. That one sounds intriguing. Sees over obstacles. I'm not 100% sure what that means. So am I going to be able to see over here? Yeah, it looks like I have vision over there now, but just barely. He can't go any further, so. But it says that when it dies, it reveals the area for 4 seconds as well. Let's see that in action. Okay, so yeah, it just pops up a little vision there. I don't think that's particularly helpful either. It's just giving it a little extra duration if it happens to run into enemies, but maybe not that good.
Choose a talent.
And then finally, Dividing Wisp. The first time you relocate a Wisp, it leaves a copy of itself. Only one Dividing Wisp can be active at a time. Alright, well that actually sounds pretty decent as far as Wisp goes. I'm not the biggest fan of Wisp, I'll be honest. I like more active stuff, but yeah, that's cool. This essentially gives you more vision than does Nimble Wisp. I feel like I'd like this better. You still get to control the second half. But you could like check 2 choke points, for instance. You could send one here and one here. That one becomes immobile. It looks like you can't remove it, but that's fine as long as you send it to the right place the first time. I feel like Dividing Wisp is probably the strongest of all these, my personal opinion. Okay, level 7. Let's move on. Siphoning Toxin. As long as you have Nature's Toxin active on an enemy, you heal for 39 health per second. That does not seem like very much health, does it? It's basically just near constant regeneration, I guess, is the goal. It's like increasing your base health regen by 39.
Where's the excitement?
We need to take some damage to see this in action. Because they presume you're going to have Toxin active. Oh, I got to pick the talent first. Toxin active all the time, more or less, in a fight. So, yeah, it's taken for 39, sure, but it's not a lot of health. Especially when your health pool's this low. You're just going to get bursted down so quickly that 39 health every once in a while is not going to help much. That feels very weak. Wild Vigor, using Crippling Spores, that's our W, increases the damage of your next 4 basic attacks by 50%. Okay, so Crippling Spores, you want to hit a bunch of stuff. And then you want to activate it. And then our attacks are hitting for 197. And they normally hit... Oh, we got to pick the talent again. This is my biggest plague, I tell you. So we go to 296. That's pretty significant. 296 is not bad for a little tiny dryad to hit. And you're going to be using Crippling Spores pretty often in 10 seconds. So it looks like maybe about half your attacks are actually going to be buffed by 50%. That's significant. If you comboed that with Cruel Spores, you could really move through mercenary camps and minions. But it wouldn't help much against heroes. That's not a bad talent. I'll keep that one in mind. Let's check out Splintered Spear. Using Noxious Blossom causes your next basic attack to hit up to 3 enemies. Okay. Let's try that one.
Will be good.
I don't think this is going to be great. Okay, so it worked as advertised. Might be good against teams with like multiple melee heroes where you can just kind of poke them. And it's also going to be great against minion waves, it looks like. So that's not too bad. I think I'd rather prefer... Trying to get the hang of her stutter step down. I think I might prefer Wild Vigor just because it makes you slightly more bursty. In other words, all the rest of your kit is focused on low damage to multiple people over time. Whereas this one is going to help you kill one person more quickly because it's single attacks doing more damage to one person. While this one just continues to make you better at killing multiple people over time. Does that make sense? So I think Wild Vigor kind of doesn't complement her kit, but gives it another layer of depth and flexibility. So that looks better so far. But what about Nature's Culling?
Choose a talent.
Let's check this one out. Increase Nature's Toxin damage by 200% to non-heroic enemies. So again, this is another mercenary minion boss killing buff, along with a couple other ones we saw. I'm not going to be a big fan of this. She's not going to be great at killing minions, it looks like, but I don't want to sacrifice hero damage to accomplish that. So Siphoning Toxin looks bad. Nature's Culling is not my style. Splintered Spear does fit her like pokey nature, where you just poke little bits of damage to everybody all the time. Whereas Wild Vigor gives her a little bit more single target burstiness. Although it's still not burst damage. It's just makes her stronger against one person finishing off a kill. So I'm going to stick with Wild Vigor for now. And now we're on to Heroics. So starting off with Thornwood Vine. This is 35 mana, super duper cheap. And it has a 15-second charge cooldown. Looks like it has 3 charges. And it sends forth a vine that deals 360 damage to all enemies in a line. It can hold 3 charges. Well, that doesn't sound too bad. It's going to be great against minion waves. And since it's got a pretty low cooldown, you actually won't feel too bad. Yeah, that's not bad. It applies the toxin too, because all your damage applies the toxin. That's pretty strong, I feel like. It's essentially worth 570 damage because you're applying the toxin for free to all of it. So each person hit there was taking 570 damage across a whole minion wave of 7 minions and Arthas. We hit for about 4,000 damage with that ult, which is pretty good. You'll see everybody's just dying. That feels great. And there's a 15-second charge cooldown, so you can use it 3 times in a row really quickly and apply 9 stacks of Nature's Toxin, which is crazy. And then they're going to start coming back relatively quickly, so you have options. You can spread them out or use them all at once for some pretty good burst. And it's very likely you can hit multiple targets. It's pretty long range. It's not super wide, but still. It's very good. I like that one a lot. But let's check out the other one, too. Let's get our build going. Leaping Strike. Oh, yes, I remember this one. 50 mana, 20-second charge cooldown. Leap over an enemy, slowing them by 80%. That's crazy. But only for essentially a third of a second. And you attack them for 539 damage. So that's going to do a ton of damage between applying the toxin for 210 and the 539. You're looking at 749 damage. That's a lot. And it has 2 charges. So we're going to kill Arthas here, looks like. Oh yeah, that second one, that slow looked very significant, but it is incredibly short. You probably noticed how quickly he started running full speed again after the first charge went through. So I don't know if the slow is going to have that big of an impact. Let's just toggle the cooldowns. But you can do it twice in a row. Yeah, so that's important that you can do it twice, right? Because otherwise you're going to be committing positionally. And you might get stunned back here. People are going to learn the range on this and where you're going to land. And there's no adjusting your path in the middle, so we're cheating a little bit here with cooldowns. But that's going to make you pretty susceptible, I feel like, when you jump through and jump back. In team fights, pulling that off is going to be very risky. Can you do other stuff while you're in the air? No, it's you have to queue up the abilities. Okay. I don't like that as much, as cool as it looks. It's going to be great for like duels, but I just don't think it's as reliable or as safe as is Thornwood Vine.
Choose a talent.
Let's get our build going here. Level 13, Pestering Blossom. Increase Noxious Blossom's range by 40%. Okay, so yeah, it's not got a particularly long range. What is this? Let's see, we cannot safely... Yeah, we can safely hit a tower, but let's see what happens here. Okay, yeah, that feels much bigger. I'll give it that. Can poke stuff back here pretty easily. That's gonna make her very good at poking, which is I think her whole idea, hitting stuff from far away and safely retreating and not overcommitting. So that's not bad. If you got that and the radius increase, which we have, it still doesn't make it a very big circle, but it's going to make it more reliable on average for you. Let's see what else we got.
Choose a talent.
Let's just go fast. We don't care. Unfair Advantage. Nature's Toxin deals 50% more damage to heroes that are slowed. Okay, so it doesn't slow on its own, but our Crippling Spores does slow for 3 seconds. So that means you're getting 50% more damage for 3 seconds when you activate this. It's hitting for, let's set our level back to 20 to keep everything standardized.
Choose a talent. Choose a talent.
So we're hitting for 70, which means it's going to be an extra 35 damage per second while they're slowed, which is, of course, 105 damage every time you pop a Crippling Spores on a person. Plus, that's not the only way you can slow. Your Leaping Strike applies a slow. And, of course, other heroes can apply slows too. So if you're in a particularly slow, heavy composition with people who have a lot of ways to slow enemies, then this could be really strong, right? Every time you pop Crippling Spores, or you don't even have to pop Crippling Spores, every time you attack, you're doing an extra 105 damage. Every time you add a stack. And there's 3 total possible stacks, so it's really just called durations, I guess, not stacks, because it takes the full 9 seconds, but you still do an extra 105 every time you apply damage to a hero. So that feels pretty good to me. Also, we got Giant Killer. We don't need to see that. Basic attacks against enemy heroes. It's just standard 1.5% of the hero's maximum health. That might be okay, but I don't think most of Lunara's damage is coming from the actual auto attack itself. It's the application of the toxin. And since that's not applying to the toxin, it's probably not going to give you as much extra value as is Unfair Advantage. Of course, if you're playing like a 4-tank team, it might, but otherwise, I think Unfair Advantage feels a little better. And then finally, Greater Spell Shield. This is just standard Spell Shield, but a little better. Upon taking ability damage, reduce that damage and further ability damage by 75% for 3 seconds. Can only trigger once every 30 seconds. That's actually intriguing that they gave her a really strong spell shield. It makes me feel like she might be great at countering burst heroes that are all about burning you down really quickly, particularly stealth heroes. You can wipe out the Zeratul Cleave, basically. You can wipe out some Nova stuff. It's very good against mages like Jaina who are trying to drop blizzard bombs on your head. And then you get to counter with slow burn damage that weakens their low health pools pretty significantly and makes them disengage or just die to incidental damage. So that might be a viable route for Lunara, playing her as an anti-burst damage assassin. Because you got the vision, you've got the toxin. She's kind of an anti-stealth hero in a way, it feels like. That seems like it could be an alternative build. But I still think Unfair Advantage is the most consistently good talent on this tier. It's actually probably one of the best talents we've seen so far. So let's move on to level 16. Choking Pollen increases the Noxious Blossom damage, that's our Q, by 50% against enemies afflicted with Nature's Toxin. That's our trait.
Fine then.
So this is going to hit for an extra 175 damage on Arthas once we pick it and we get a Toxin on him. I had trouble picking out the number there. I don't know about you guys. Let's say 526. Yeah. So instead of 351, it hits for 526. That's not bad, but unless you get the stuff to increase the range and the radius, I think it's going to be a little bit too hard to hit to get the value out of that. But I could see a Noxious Blossom poke build coming out of all these talents. What else do we have?
I feel stronger already.
The Starwood Spear. Use Crippling Spores to increase your basic attack's range by 50% for 6 seconds. Okay, so let's get a Toxin on. This is our range now. It's not particularly great. But now, oh, we gotta pick the talent first, guys. We'll learn someday. Okay, so yeah, we're definitely attacking from way farther away.
Nature reclaims all.
That's not bad. I don't know how often that's going to come into play. It makes you better at kiting and a little better at chasing people once the Toxin is applied, which isn't too bad. But let's see what else we got.
Choose a talent.
We don't care.
I feel stronger.
Invigorating Spores. Using Crippling Spores to increase your attack speed by 50%. Okay, so these are two sides of the same coin, basically. But speed instead of range. I kind of like that just because it means you actually get more total burst out and you start applying stacks faster. But let's pick the talent to see it. Oh yeah, we're attacking pretty quickly. That's going to make her really good at killing people, I feel like.
Let's go.
That feels very good so far.
You deserved.
I like that. In combination with all the other W talents, this is feeling like the strongest build to me so far. And finally, at level 16, we've got Let Them Wither. Increases Crippling Spores slow to 60%. I think that's okay, but less powerful than either of these two. Increasing your range is kind of functionally similar to slowing them down, and especially because the difference is only 20% because it's normally 40%, so you're not gaining that much for a whole talent. But Invigorating Spores seems very, very good. So I'm going to go there.
I can use that.
Now, for level 20, let's take a look at Boundless Stride since we already picked Leaping Strike. All Leaping Strike charges are returned every 20 seconds. You can also use Leaping Strike on allies. Interesting. So, the difference here is normally when you use 2 in a row to get in and get back out, you have to wait 40 seconds to do that again. You can wait 20 seconds to do it once, but that's a situation where you might end up killing yourself because you go too deep and you don't have the way to get back out. So this is basically halving your cooldown when you want to do it twice in a row like this. But you can also use it on allies, which means you can use it for an escape.
Let's go.
One time. Let's get Malfurion in here and see that in action. So yeah, it's just a way to get away quicker. That's intriguing. I mean, that makes it a little bit better because she does not really have an escape. She's going to have to rely on vision to get away and her just natural speed. But that's not always going to be enough. So that's not too bad. But I don't think I'd want to have to commit to an inferior heroic just for an average escape. So we also have Galloping Gate. Activate to increase the movement speed bonus of Dryad Swiftness to 80% for 6 seconds. So this is
Nature reclaims all.
this is basically a sprint. Yeah, you just move really fast. That's good too, but it's very similar in Boundless Stride. It just finally gives you your escape at level 20. I could see people picking that. She has a very low health pool, and having a sprint. What's the cooldown on this? 30 seconds. That's not too bad. This is a viable pick, probably. A lot of heroes get to level 20 and then have to pick some sort of escape, like Bolt of the Storm or whatever, just to stay alive in late game scenarios with such a low health pool. So I wouldn't be surprised if this got picked, but let's see what else we have.
Choose a talent.
Abolished Magic, 45-second cooldown. Activate to remove all stuns, roots, silences, slows, and dots from yourself and an ally for 2 seconds after the duration of stuns, roots, silence, and slows, but not dots. Dots only shows up in that first half. Is also reduced by 50%. So this is another escape talent. They definitely are driving her down the escape line of play. But how do you target an ally? Oh, so you targeted an ally first. You can't actually just cast it unless there's an ally, it looks like. Can you even self-cast it? Oh, you can self-cast it. Let's toggle cooldowns. Yeah, you can just cast it on yourself. So this is a cleanse, but you'd be wasting it to cast it on yourself. You can get 2 people cleansed at once. So it's a cleanse that also reduces the ink. It's just cleanse, basically, but a double person cleanse. So again, supporting the notion that Lunara is really more of a kind of utility assassin. Almost a support assassin hybrid. Like the other side of the coin from Tassadar. That's interesting. I like that they've taken her down a very unique path here. I think in a skilled team and in certain compositions, that's going to make her very powerful. But we've got one more talent to look at here.
I feel strong.
Level 20 increase to Thornwood Vine. Let's get this stuff out of the way.
Let's go.
It's called Forest Wrath. Increases Thornwood Vine's range by 30%, its speed by 20%, and your vision radius by 35%. So it doesn't do anything to your vision radius on its own, but apparently they want to give you some extra vision so you can cast it really far away. Oh, cool. So that's great on its own. That's almost worth it right there. But
I can use that.
you also get to increase the range. So the range right now is about right there. What is it now? That's underwhelming. That's an insignificant difference. That didn't feel like 30%, by the way, did it? There's no way that was 30%. From here to here is not 30%. We were right at the front of the gate. You're talking about maybe 15 to 20%. So that seems a little fake, but it's also faster, so you don't have to lead your shots as much, which is good. It's a very strong upgrade. If you're winning, I'd probably go with this one. If you're losing, I might want to take an escape with Galloping Gate, or if it's close. But this is the more aggressive game finishing high damage option, so I like it a lot. I'll probably stick with Forest Wrath for now. So that's it. Let me go through and we'll pick the build that I liked best. We went with Blossom Swell, Dividing Wisp. We liked Wild Vigor, and it's going to be even better with our level 16. We like Thornwood Vine. We like Unfair Advantage. We liked Invigorating Spores, and we liked Forest's Wrath. This is really kind of a maximum damage Lunara type build. We've got this is a throwaway talent, as is this one to me. Really, they don't do a whole lot on their own. But Wild Vigor increases your basic attacks on your W. Got a really nice high damage ability here to apply stacks of Toxin. This is also increasing our damage from our W since it's affecting slowed heroes, which our W does, but also any other slows. So our W is really our power play with this build. We want to get the Toxin on 3 or 4 people, pop the W to increase their Toxins and take advantage of all the buffs to our W that it provides. Also level 16, we're increasing from our W, our attack speed, so between this attack buff, this attack speed buff, and the damage here, you should really be able to shred a single hero from all 3 of those. And then finally, level 20, we're just going to upgrade our heroic because we like it pretty well. But let's actually see this in action on Arthas. So we're hitting for 197 and 70, and then we pop our W. We're hitting for 296 very rapidly. It feels pretty good. He got shredded relatively quickly despite being a level 20 tank. So I like that build quite a bit. I think that's going to be the go-to option for me at first until I experiment some more and see what else is out there. I could also potentially see a Q build that's all about poke. And maybe even a utility build with like Spell Shield and Abolished Magic and something else I remember being particularly good at utility. But there's that option as well. So that's it for me and Lunara. She looks pretty fun. I don't know if she's going to be good yet. Her raw numbers don't seem that strong. Her health pool's a little low. Her basic attack damage isn't crazy. But you can do stuff like this, just chase people forever and kite people forever. So the potential's there. I'll have to play with her to see for sure how she holds up. But she's definitely fun. Really, really unique as far as hero kits are concerned. She does stuff that nobody else does. The dot is unique. The wisp is very unique. These abilities, particularly her W, is a little bit passive in nature since it's another damage over time. So that's pretty interesting. She's unlike anything else we've seen. Her movement, her abilities, and her utility as an assassin. So thanks so much for getting to know Lunara with me. Hopefully you know a little more about the hero and have an idea on what talents you'd like to play. And I'd love to see you playing Lunara in the Nexus soon. She's still $5 right now, so it might just be worth the investment to go ahead and buy her with cash instead of gold. They don't often come that cheap when they're brand new. This is Regis Kilbin. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, game on.